So I've been thinking to give a session on Docker since some time, and I found this platform quite good. So first of all, thanks for connecting and booking with me. So in this session, we will be covering fundamental topics on Docker and also on containerization. So uh, I created a short presentation just to keep you guys, updated on what I am talking about and discussing about. So I will mostly focus on a demo part, which will be on practical perspective. Further, let me start the presentation. So the first one is the overview. So here is a brief overview of what we will be covering. I have also enabled caption so that you guys can see, listen what I'm talking. And let me increase my video resolution. Okay, perfect. So here's the brief overview about the session. We will discuss about what is Docker, then how we can use it in Windows and Linux. Further, we will discuss and I will share you some practical examples of the main advantages of Docker and the components of the key components of Docker and some live examples. So please feel free to drop any question you have in comment section, in the chat section. So about me, I've been working in DevOps since last 4.5 years, and I have been a full stack engineer and I also worked as an SRE in my previous role. So currently I'm a DevOps engineer. I have certification in multiple domain and cloud platforms, including AWS and Microsoft Azure. My main expertise is in uh, cloud ops, Kubernetes, observability, and Linux administration as well. So let me discuss a bit about the webinar. So in this webinar, we will be focusing, as I mentioned earlier, just on fundamentals of Docker, and I will be conducting more session soon. But this is just the first part of it, and yeah, all kind of audience are welcome. IT professionals, anyone who want to learn Docker, developers, and the key in takeaways from this session is to how to build, deploy, and manage application with Docker. I will also show you some, live demonstration of how we can use it with a practical perspective. And of course, please feel free if you want to, enable your mic or camera. Just let me know in the chat section, and we can interact if you have any questions. And further, I will share you a resource guide after this session on if you want to learn more about Docker and how you can, follow the approach. So the first topic is, what is Docker? So I am sure you must have heard Docker because of this revolution in IT field that uh, there are a lot of tools which we use on a daily basis, and Docker is something we often used to hear. So basically, it's a software platform we use to build, test, and deploy applications. And you can package your own application into different units, and you can combine your application with your dependencies and your libraries, your application code, and you can build that using a Docker file. And then the generated build is something called Docker image. And then you can use that image to, run it. So that's a Docker container. I will go through it in detail after some in this session, but I'm just giving you a brief idea. So Docker is the word Docker has a lot of different meanings. You must have heard there is Docker, then there is Docker file, then there is Docker engine, then there is Docker containers, then there is Docker Swarm, then there is Docker Compose. It's not the words are quite easy, and I will go through it in detail and further. So, what does the Docker mean? So, Docker is just a Docker engine. It is used to just support all kind of components which is used by Docker to run on different platform. So, let me show you the Docker's website, the main homepage of Docker, so that you can get some idea about Docker. So this is the main Docker. Let me hide this. So it's their official website, and they have multiple products for different kind of use cases. We don't need to, use everything to understand Docker. A simple installation of Docker. Let me show you how we can do it. So the only thing required for you to, use Docker is just use Docker engine, and that's it. Yeah, and for that there are different platforms which are supported. Here you can see that it supports a lot of operating systems, including CentOS, Ubuntu, and even Windows. So that's pretty much some basic information about Docker. Further, how we can use it in different platforms like Windows and Linux. So let me share a practical demonstration of how we can do that. So the most used platform is Linux for sure. And so the first thing you need to Google is, Docker install Ubuntu or Linux. Then you will see a lot of different pages. So this one, docs.docker.com, is the main official handler for them. So we can go here, and here are the steps to install. I know it's a lot of information initially, but we can start directly from step one, and that's from here. So I recently launched an instance, which is Docker demo on AWS, and just for this demonstration, I will connect to this instance and I will show you how we can, install Docker firstly. So I use TermX. It's a software which allows us to connect to, our Linux servers basically. So I configured my AWS host in this software, and here is me connected to this instance. And so just to show you some quick information about this instance, I can do uh, name, that's proc, if I remember the command. Okay, it has been up since some time. It is good. So I will further go and copy paste this much. I can explain what does it mean. So here, firstly, we are adding the Docker repository URL, which is supported by uh, apt basically. So I have done this step once. So the second time I will do it will run a bit fast. Okay. So it is installed. Now further we will need to add the main repository of the Docker. So for that there are two more commands. That's this command echo will basically put that specific line in our file called sources.list. So I will just run this command. Here we go. And further we will do apt-get update to update our repository with the new binary. So that's it. Now we can install Docker. So here you can see there are a lot of different Docker packages uh, are mentioned just to install. So basically this are, I can explain in detail each and every one of them. So let me copy paste the command. Let's remove that dollar. So the first one is Docker CE. That's the main Docker engine we will install. Then the CLI allows us to run it directive command and command line. And the container D is also the Docker engine, which is the latest. And then there is its internal dependencies. So we can go ahead and install. It ran fast because I already installed it once. And further, that's it. We can run our Docker. If you want to see if it is installed, we can just use this command called Docker version, and then it will show us the version, the API version and its dependency. So here we can say that it is installed successfully, and I'm using Ubuntu instance. So that's our first part, which is install. So that's how we install Docker on our system. And if you want to run Docker on Windows, then we can use Docker Desktop, which is available for Windows operating system. So this is pretty straightforward. So here we download the Docker Desktop, and once it is downloaded, it will install us with the Docker Desktop binary. And after like you run the application, access your you can access your Docker CLI using terminal or any CLI you are using, let's say CMD or something. So that's pretty much it. That's about installation of with Docker. Please let me know if you have any questions. If not, then we can proceed. I will wait for 1 minute and monitor the chat if anyone has any question, please. Okay. Okay, I guess we are good. So proceeding further, the next topic is what are the main advantages of Docker? So, mostly when we install something, right, we Google it, then we install its dependency, we do each and every step. And for developers perspective, let's say we are installing some backend, we are working on some backend application, then we install its dependency for, let's say, Node.js, then we install another dependency, then, we configure it, then we run our application code. And that's how, it is done. And if you want to do it again, we have to repeat all the steps again. So the main advantage of Docker is to combine all the dependency right into a single file and then just reuse that. And after reusing it, we can actually reuse in any platform. If you built your Docker image in Ubuntu based system, then you can use it in even in Windows. So that's the main advantage. And even you can share your code, your Docker file with other developers or your team members, and they can do the exact same steps you did easily. Then some other advantages of Docker is uh, Docker allows us to use our system resources quite efficiently because we can limit each and every container, and that includes CPU, RAM, and all kind of different resources. And we can even run multiple Docker containers so that our system resources does not sit idly. Further, there are so as I mentioned earlier, it Docker allows us to keep our environment consistent. If sometimes we miss any step, that won't happen with Docker because we have defined everything in a Docker file, which allows us to reuse it, the same thing again and again. And the best advantage of Docker is to have rapid deployment. So Docker, of course, is very fast. It starts its container very fast. It creates, stops, deletes, and it does all the deployment process very fast. And that's why the industry is using Docker quite efficiently. And further, the Docker also allows us to scale our infra and keep like increase our scalability horizontally or vertically based on the demand. So that's the main advantage. And further portability, as I mentioned earlier, if we want to share our Docker images or Docker files with our colleagues or our team members or anyone in the community, then we can do it easily. So let me show you one example here. If you want to download any images, Docker have an official platform that's called hub.docker.com, and here we can easily search for any Docker based uh, container which are officially there. So these are all the open source container we can use. And if you can see here, there are more than 1 billion downloads, 10,000 stars. So this is quite famous image, and you can just use this image for any of your purpose, including development or production use case. Further, going back to our advantages, the last one is isolation and security. As our application code lies within the Docker container, we can apply security rules efficiently to keep it isolated and just run the existing code and apply all kind of security rules even from the firewall outside. That's the main advantage, and it follows the same security standards as it is done outside. So that's the key thing about Docker. There are other advantages also, but just to keep this presentation short, I like kept the point number of points quite low. Further, the next component. Oh, let me wait. Please feel free to ask any question if you have. Even I'm speaking, so I kept the chat open just to see if you have any questions. So yeah, moving back, we have advantages and we have Docker components. So this is one of the main topic of this session. Uh, so Docker follows a lot of different kind of mechanism. It has a lot of components. So the key component here is a container. A container is something which is running on a Docker host, and a Docker host runs on a server or an instance. So for an example, currently I am running this instance, Ubuntu instance, and inside that we installed the Docker engine. And further, when we run a container with Docker engine, that's the main component. That's what is represented here. These are the main containers which we will run shortly. And the containers are like run using Docker images. So the Docker images are something which we create using a Docker file. Docker file are created when, let me show you an example. So this is our Docker file. I will explain in detail, but I'm just showing you the logical explanation of what exactly is a Docker file. It's a collection of an image and all the dependency, including the environment dependency and our code dependency. We use this and we create an image, which we essentially create, and then we use that image to create a container. And that's the key component of Docker. And then we have Docker. Then we have Docker registry. So Docker registry is something where we host our Docker images. So if I go back to our Docker hub, so this is our Docker hub, and this is an open source official Docker registry, which is hosted by Docker itself, the main, the main company, the main enterprise behind it. And yeah, here you can find all kind of images, just as I showed you, the Nginx image. And that's the main components of it. Let me proceed to the next slide. I will show you these commands with our like the demo session, which I will do in the end. Yeah, then we have the Docker architecture. So for Docker architecture, we have a client, we have a daemon, and we have a registry. So in our example, uh, client is an instance which we just launch on AWS. So this is our client basically. We go back. Then we have a Docker daemon. So Docker daemon is when we run a container or our images that contains the main, core, the main code and our dependency. And then we have a registry. Registry is something where we pull our image, where we store our images, and we can use it to, grab it. That's completely a Docker ecosystem. So that's pretty much it. I will show you some live demo so that you can get a better idea about it. So here in this demo, I will run like some commands step by step and explain you its information. So these commands are basically, some of the fundamental Docker commands, which is used to manage all our images and containers. And yeah, let me start it. So first of all is Docker version, which I showed you. Let me uh, share my screen so that you can even see my terminal. I'm sharing my screen again. Just hold on. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Uh, so I'll just adjust my screen so that we can have a better look. So let's run the first command. That's Docker version. So Docker version will show you the version as I mentioned earlier. It's the same command. Then there is Docker pull. When we want to download an image from Docker registry, mostly from Docker Hub, then we use this command called Docker pull. Before running this command, I want to show you that there is a command called Docker help. If you are confused, or if you want to learn, or if you just want to recall your commands, you can just use this command called Docker help and navigate with each of the command offering by the Docker engine. And let's say if you want to search for pull, so you can do is Docker help and then grab pull. So it will show you just exact command for for your requirements basically. So now we will do Docker pull. So here it needs Docker pull. Then if you want to pass any parameters, we can pass it here and the name of the image and its digest. So let's pull an image. So I'm pulling the latest image from Nginx. So for that, I need to mention the name of the image and then its tag. So the schema of uh, Docker images, it starts with its image name and then its tag. So here we will put its tag, which is mostly latest. Unless if you have a different tag, you can of course use it. But I want to use latest because why not use latest and binaries? So here we are pulling the latest image now. So it is downloading its dependency from Docker Hub, and it downloaded it successfully into our local machine. So to see that image, if it is downloaded or not, you can run this command called Docker images, which will list down all the Docker images which are stored on our instance. So here we have Nginx, which is just downloaded, and it's 187 MB, the size of it. And here you can even see its tag and its image ID, all the essential information you need. Further, let me show you an example of a build. So imagine how somebody is building this image, right? So they are using Docker file basically. So let's create a Docker file quickly. So I'm using my terminal, and then so we will create a Docker file now. So let's create a Docker file from the same image, Nginx, and then we will just label our image that it's a new version, new container, and we can run a command called echo hello. So this is just a very basic example of how we can create and run our how we can create a Docker image using the Docker file. So let me save it. So just want to make sure the syntax is good. Yep, it's good. Now we will use this command called docker build. So docker build -t is for tag. So let's give a good name, new container, and let's give a tag latest. And dot is for referencing the repository. Uh, so it says there is a syntax error. So I must have made an error. Let me see what it's wrong. We can take reference from the official documentation. Let me share my screen fully. Docker file label example. So here you can see that there is an object called label and it follows with this standard. So if you want to mention this detail, then we need to follow this syntax. So let's update our code. So I will just remove my file. Okay, so it looks good. Now let's build it. Okay, it's done. So here you can see that it has started building. Then it used our Docker file and it downloaded the image which was already on our host from Nginx, and it created a new container called new container hyphen latest. So let's down that container. So here you can see we have a new container now with the same size, of course, because we did not modify much. We just put this basic detail and said to run echo hello. So here we were listing down all the images. So let's see a new image, which is a new container, but now it has a different tag, as you can see, because we made a change just a few seconds ago. So that's how you create an image quickly and then you list down it. And further, I have a good example to share it with you. So there is a repository which is called Linux server. They have this repository for Docker Firefox. So imagine if we want to run like Mozilla Firefox browser inside a Docker container, how we can do that. So this guy's created a small build of it, and they are using all the dependency, and they created this uh, Docker image for us. So let's run this. It will be an interesting example if you want to run your browser on an instance or anywhere you would like. So I will just use this command. So let me explain a bit here. So this is the main Docker run command which is used to start the container, and we will use our Docker images which it will download from this repository. So here there are some parameters which are passed. So let me explain them one by one. So it's the name which we will give, that's Firefox. Then it is applying some security rules, that's unconfined. So that's an internal parameter, which I'm not sure what it means, but if it is passed, then let's pass it. Then these are some process parameters which it is passing, and its permission IDs and the time zone of it and the port on which we will open our image, and so that we can access our browser from this image easily. And then we will also share our local directory. We will do a bind mount with it, and we are putting some limit on the size as well. And it won't restart when the instance can restart. This image will be starting on its own with this parameter. So let's run this now. Okay. So it failed because I already have a container named Firefox. So let me remove that. Let us confirm there is no container running. Okay. And let's see if we have any container left over. No. I will run that command again. Okay, we have it running. So to see any running container, we will use Docker PS. So it will show us the running instances basically. So here you can see that we have a container named Firefox, which is running since 9 seconds, and it has some ports exported. So let us confirm if we have this deployment successful or not. So if you, as you can see here, we have the container running now. Let me open my security groups to allow this container being used from outside network. So I will just go to my security groups. And here I will put a new port, which is 3000 and 3001. So that's our two ports which we, so why I'm using this, because we have our Docker container running in this port. As you can see, we have it running on this port. And if you want to access this service from outside the network, then we will have to open this network. So I just updated it. Now let's connect to this instance using its IP address. I will just go and do, now let's to continue. So now we have a Firefox. So we have a Firefox instance. Can you see my screen? Can you guys please confirm in the chat if you can see my screen? I just want to, oh, thanks, Brijesh. So we have, so this browser is Google Chrome. As you can see, I'm using Google Chrome and I'm accessing a page with IP address and its port. And inside that, we have another Firefox instance. So here you can do anything you want. Let's say you want to access internet. You can do anything basically. And the best part of it, this is streaming directly from an IP address. And this is hosted on a virtual machine basically. And if you know, the virtual machine also provides very fast bandwidth. We can have very fast internet access as well. And the another best part is, as this is live streaming, I'm opening this in an incognito mode, and we will see everything. We will see the same of everything. Let me share you my URL. If you want to access it from your side, I'm just sharing my URL. You can open this URL which I shared, and it will show you everything I do basically. And the best part is you can even control it from your side. So if you open the URL which I just shared on your machine, then you can see this image and you can control it and open anything from your side as well. So you can try that now. I will wait for a few minutes for you guys to test it. Okay, let me send again. I shared to everyone again. Sorry. Let me know if this URL is accessible, please. Okay, I think you can open it, right? So if you open it, you can anything from your side. Like let's say you want to open YouTube or even Wikipedia, you can open it, and you can use it from your side as well. And if you use it, basically it's collaborative browsing using IP address. So this is all done using Docker because we have its dependency inside a Docker image. We can just run that container and use it. So you can open it, it's fine because everybody are using it at once. Somebody might have conflicts, but yeah, feel free to open anything you want. Yeah, it's, thank you for marketing me. So that's a collaborative mechanism which is done using Docker image. I think we are good as this example is working fine. I will stop this now. Let me stop this browser. But the link will be still accessible if you want to access it and use it for some time. You feel free to use it. Now let's go back to our example and yeah, let me showcase you the next examples. We have used Docker run, that is used to create a new container instance from an image and starter that we already did. And the next is Docker exec. So Docker exec will allow us to run any specific command inside the Docker container. So we have a Firefox container which is running. So let's do echo Firefox inside a container. That did not work. So let's go back and I ran a bash so that this allows us to, do exec inside the Docker container. So we are now inside the Docker container and we can, basically see the process running and everything inside it. So this shell is of Docker container itself. It's not an instance, it's a Docker container. And basically we are browsing through the container now. So that's pretty much it about Docker exec. Now to stop a container, we can use this command called docker stop and then the name of the container, that's Firefox. So this will stop our container. And once it is stopped, we won't be able to access the IP address. So this will be disabled now because the container is stopped, right? And if you want to start it, we will just use docker start and container name. Now it will start our session here. As you can see, it started. Let's go back. And if you want to remove an instance, a Docker container, we can use Docker RM. And the last command is Docker compose up. So let me explain what Docker compose is. So, so Docker compose is basically, if you want to run multiple container and we want to provide, write a code of it, basically do it with code and put all the configuration and necessary details inside that, then we can use Docker Compose. And here, as you can see, we have services. So its syntax is quite basic. Let me open in VS Code. So here it's its syntax. It's quite basic. So it has a services. Let me put down. So we firstly put its version, then the services, and then there are two services inside that. The first one is a web, and it uses a database which is created using this uh, compose file. As you can see, this web container has all of the necessary configuration. It has its port. It provides the path where the build is, where the build exists, and it is dependent on our database. And even we are passing the environment variable that is Postgres, and it's a connection string. And further, we have similar configuration for this database. So let's run this. I have not tested this, but I think we can run it. So to run a Docker compose file, we can just create a new file called Docker compose, and let me copy paste. I copy pasted. Now let's save it. Let's do a cat to confirm. Okay. So if you want to run a Docker container, we can easily run it using this command called Docker compose up. So this will use, okay, so we don't have Docker compose installed. So let's install it very quickly. Docker compose install. So we can use this. So let's go and do copy paste. It has downloaded, and I think this is not right. That's it. So now we have Docker Compose, and now let's do Docker Compose up. So it is now downloading its dependency, that's Postgres image. And yeah, now it's downloading the web dependency, and it has started the container. So let me open our presentation. So as you can see, it is running now. So let's confirm if it is running. So what we can do is we can go back. We can do Docker PS. Let me hide this. So it is running on port 5432, and I see the second container is not running. It might be unstable. That can be the reason, but that's how I just want to show you how we can run Docker Compose. So that's pretty much it. Now let me stop this. To stop it, you can just press Control C, and it will be stopped. So that's all about Docker Compose. There is Docker Swarm as well, and there are a few other components and commands left. But I will cover that in the next session we will have, because like I believe it will be information overloaded for some of the people who are connected to this meeting. Yeah, let me put back our slide, and the last part of this session is to have some Q&As. So please feel free to ask me any question on chat, or if you want, you can even ask me on like using audio. You can unmute your mic, and you can ask anything you want. So that's the last part. I will wait for some minutes for you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Rana. Thank you for the feedback. Of course. Thanks, Brijesh. No problem. Thanks for connecting. So if you guys don't have any questions, then you can even connect me on LinkedIn, or you can use my email address. Let me share my email address below. Thank you, Viraj. Thanks for connecting to this session. So please feel free to email me if you have any questions, and I look forward to connect with you in the next one. That's all I have for this session. I kept it at very basic level so that even beginners can understand. And yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you again for connecting and have a good weekend. Yeah, thank you. Take care.